In 1996, Fender Musical Instruments released a limited edition Richie Sambora Signature Stratocaster in this beautiful black Paisley paint job. For years, Sambora fans, Bon Jovi fans, and collectors thought there were only 200 built by Fender Japan, and it was reported that several were destroyed in a factory fire. But it turns out that might not be right. Spoiler, it's not right. I'm Thom Tran, and this is the story behind the strings. This is it, officially known as the Richie Sambora Black Paisley Stratocaster Limited Edition. This is one of several Richie Sambora signature model guitars produced by Fender Musical Instruments from 1993 into the early 2000s. The Series 1, the Series 2, the Made in Mexico model, this Black Paisley model, and several Japanese-made exclusives for the Japanese domestic market. If you want me to do a video on each of those models, let me know in the comments below. Here are the specs. It has an alder body with a gloss polyester finish in a black Paisley paint job with matching black Paisley pickguard. 25.5-inch scale and a maple fingerboard with a 12-inch radius on a maple neck with 22 jumbo frets. The fret markers are the large star inlays that are distinctive to Richie's guitars and that you'll find on some of the Sambora signature models, and we'll get into that later. There's a skunk stripe on the back of the neck, and the headstock is a more traditional post-70s headstock with a spaghetti Fender logo and Richie's signature. Some export models will also have a 50th anniversary commemorative sticker on the back. One of my favorite parts about this guitar is the asymmetric 4-bolt neck plate and contoured neck joint with a micro tilt that makes it just that much easier to hit those higher notes. This rocker sports an HSS or humbucker single coil pickup configuration with a DiMarzio PF Pro custom wound humbucker in the bridge and RS or Richie Sambora single coil Strat pickups in the middle and neck positions. The hardware includes a Floyd Rose original double locking tremolo, 5-way pickup selector switch, and it came with chrome hardware and black knobs for the master volume and 2-tone knobs. And finally, Goto standard cast tuners with pearloid buttons. According to Fender Japan's 1996 product catalog called Twang, the Black Paisley Richie Sambora signature model listed at 140,000 Japanese yen, or just under $1,100 US, which included a hard shell case. At the time of this recording, with inflation, that's about $2,051 in 2023. The export model, which was only sold in the US and the UK, according to Fender's website, had an MSRP of $1,369. Nice. And 99 cents. You're a child. As of this recording, there are several listed on Reverb for upwards of $5,000. Richie Sambora came to guitar prominence in the 1980s as the lead guitarist of multi-platinum selling arena rock band Bon Jovi. And being the era of big tone, big amps, and big hair, like many of his shredding contemporaries, for most of the decade, Richie was slinging Kramer guitars on stage and on his back, including his famous star-inlaid triple humbucker Kramer guitar. But in 1990, Fender Musical Instruments approached Sambora about working on his own signature series for the brand. And in 1993, Fender released what would become the first in a line of Richie Sambora signature Stratocasters. This limited edition Black Paisley model was the fourth in that line. It was produced at Fender Japan in 1996, but discontinued the following year, according to Fender. I won't go into detail about the differences between all the models in this video except to say that the Made in Mexico model lacked the distinctive star inlays on the fretboard, which was, from a distance, how you could immediately tell it was a Richie Sambora signature series. Every other model, whether it was American-made or Japanese-made, had either the large or small star fret markers, and they all differed slightly in pickup configurations, bridge setups, number of frets, and available colors, among other specs. If you want a video going in-depth into the similarities and differences of all the Richie Sambora signature models, leave a comment below. The export model, made only in 1996, sold in the United States and the UK, and had a model number of 125-2702-550, while the version made for the domestic Japanese market sold between 1996 and 2000, with a model number of STR-140RS. At one point, I saw it reported that only 3 Black Paisley models were made in the United States, and those were given directly to Richie himself. I haven't been able to verify this other than a couple of photos of Richie holding a Black Paisley model. And if you look closely, you can clearly see a plus 12 decibel boost button between the tone knobs, just like on his American-made signature Strats. This boost button is not on any of the Japanese-made Black Paisley models. There are infuriatingly few photos or videos of Richie actually playing this model guitar. Usually it's the same 3 or 4 that are recirculated around the web, with the most popular ones coming right from Fender's catalogs from the corresponding years. If you have or have even seen any different photos or video of Richie playing or even holding a black Paisley, let me know in the comments below. One thing that I have noticed while I was doing research for this video was a weird discoloration in some of the models. The black Paisley paint job is an almost grayscale color when the body should match the pickguard, which is also painted in the same black Paisley color scheme. But I've seen these guitars for sale with a paint job where the body is almost a greenish or gold discoloration. I assume it's the same kind of thing that happened to Randy Rhoads' 1974 Les Paul Custom that evolved from a factory alpine white to its now famous yellowish color. If you're looking to buy one of these, be careful. I've recently seen a few very badly made counterfeit versions, along with a couple of decent counterfeit versions. But check the serial number against Fender's online serial number database that I've linked below. If you're buying the real deal, they're going to be expensive, upwards of $4,000 to $5,000 currently online. So it shouldn't be a problem asking the seller for a serial number. If you're going to drop that kind of coin on an instrument, you should be able to check the pedigree. Now, if you have or are looking to buy a Japanese non-export version, the serial number will not show up in Fender's database. Instead, you'll find a crafted in Japan sticker along with a serial number that starts with the letter N, V, A, O, or P, followed by 6 digits. Now for something interesting. For years, fans like myself have heard that only 200 of the US export models were made, and it's been reported on several websites that 15 were destroyed in a factory fire, leaving only 185 surviving in the wild. But while I was doing research for this episode, I reached out to Fender with some questions, and here's a response I got from a rep. Along with a copy and paste list of the specs, at the bottom of the email, under comments, it says 60 were made. Now, I replied to the rep and asked for confirmation, saying that I've heard that closer to 200 were made and that 15 were destroyed in a fire. And the rep's reply was this, quote, "These specs are from our official records, so 60 would be the correct number." Meaning that if you have a US import model of the black Paisley Richie Sambora Stratocaster, it is very rare, even more rare than I thought. Which begs the question, where did the number 200 come from? Maybe that's a question for another video. When I told a guitarist friend of mine I was doing this series, he asked me why I was starting with this guitar instead of one of the other ones from my collection. My comedy fans know that I'm a big Eddie Van Halen and Prince fan, so they assumed I would start with one of those guitars because I may have a couple of Eddie Van Halen signature guitars in my collection. But that being said, the very first rock lick I ever learned to play was this. And this black Paisley Strat was at the top of my guitar bucket list. Mainly because they're so rare and I never thought I'd actually own one. But I also remember being maybe 13 years old. My dad took me to the now closed Kubera Music on Harlem Road in Cheektowaga, New York to buy my first real guitar, which is the subject of the first video in this series. And you can click on the video somewhere over here for that. That's when I saw a Fender Frontline ad with Richie Sambora featuring DiMarzio pickups. And when I saw that ad, I was like, hot damn, he is cool. I bet I'm gonna get a ton of chicks with a cowboy hat and a guitar like that. And as a young Asian teenager growing up in a Polish neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, I wore cowboy hats far more than I should have because of Richie Sambora. And surprise, surprise, in the early 90s, I did not get laid in high school nearly as much as I thought wearing a cowboy hat. But this guitar is one of the most rare in my collection, and I love it. And I think part of it is the star inlays, not because of the Old West thing or even the Wanted Dead or Alive thing, but because I enlisted in the US Army in 1997 right out of high school, and the stars are emblematic of the military. Now, I acquired this guitar in February of 2015 from a seller online, and I actually found the original listing from that purchase. I bought it from the original owner, who himself bought it in 1997. It was in near perfect condition. He told me it was a case queen and never really played out. Now, full disclosure, a weird thing happened while I was writing this script. I initially checked the serial number against Fender's database and I got a hit. But the number I had came from an inventory database of my collection because the guitar itself was, in its case, buried under a bunch of other cases. But when I actually checked the guitar, it turns out This is a Japanese non-export model, which is confusing because the guy I bought it from said he bought it from a store in the US. And I'll leave you with this fun fact. There is a Swedish classic rock band called Black Paisley, and they got their name from the Sambora Signature model of the same name. There it is, the story behind the strings of my Fender Richie Sambora Signature Black Paisley Stratocaster. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Which is your favorite Sambora model? The OG, the version 2, the Mexican made, or the Black Paisley? Leave your answer in the comments below. I want to thank Fender Musical Instruments, Reverb, and Fuzzface.net, where I got a lot of the information for this video. I'll be making more of these featuring other guitars in my collection. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really, really does help out the channel. Ring the bell icon to be notified when those videos drop. And like I said, if you want me to make a video highlighting the story behind the other Richie Sambora models, let me know in the comments below. Please follow me at all the places, including Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and you can help support the channel at Patreon, where you can suggest a guitar for me to go behind the strings of, even if it's not in my collection. Links are all below. My stand-up comedy dates are on my website, thomtran.com. Thanks again, and let the strings tell your story. Nice.